It Happened on the Job, the podcast for relatable conversations with contractors. Sponsored by Goodman Insurance.
Welcome to It Happened on the Job. My name is Mike. That's Brian.
Yo.
Our guest today is Tony Molnar, president of M3 Mechanical. How you doing, sir?
Fantastic.
Just pretty local here out of Anaheim as well, right?
Yes.
That's awesome.
Correct. Yep.
So give us a little history. How did you get started in this industry and the road to the presidency of M3 Mechanical?
Sure. Yeah, it's kind of a crazy background, little serendipity, and a wild way to get here. But it started with, like most businesses in the contracting world and certainly in the HVAC world. My father was back in the 60s, he was a pin chaser for a bowling center, and then became a mechanic for the bowling center, then became district mechanic. And he started working with the guys that service the air conditioning for all the AMF and Brunswick centers through Southern California, and became his employee, became his partner, and then got retired, he became the owner. So as a sole proprietor, he'd been working in AC for a number of years. And these are, you picture the bowling centers, they've got large built-up systems, a lot of open drive. And so it was old school, a lot of old school stuff, big equipment. And my younger brother, Rick, would help with him on weekends and stuff. My brother kind of grew up with a tool belt on his hip and very mechanically inclined, very good at what he does, and he'd help my dad out. And so my brother went on to trade school, certified, and went on to work with another large engineering firm. Meantime, my dad was running the business and kind of got a little bit too concentrated, as can happen, and things went south with his one big customer. And in the meantime, I was working in financial services, and we had been doing a lot of stuff in the IPO market. It was my responsibility to do friends and families. We were the investment banking firm for E-Trade. So E-Offering was investment banking trade.
Okay.
For E-Trade, and we were doing a lot of IPO work and stuff. And March of 2000 hits, the market tanks.
Yep.
Nothing's going on. Dad's business is failing. My brother Rick is not crazy about where he's at, and so he said, "Look, let's either we let Dad's business die a natural death, or we step in and we try and help it out." So while I was transitioning some things on the financial side, we set up a new office and stuff, but I was kind of phasing out and phasing in to M3. We incorporated in the summer of 2000. March of 2000 is when the market tanked, and summer of 2000 we incorporated as M3, and then kind of took it from there. I wound down over the next few years out of the investment, the financial side, and went into the mechanical HVAC side. So it was a crazy transition, one I never would have scripted, never anticipated.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Going from E-Trade and financial services to mechanical contractor.
Yeah, it was a wild ride, and some of my peers were kind of scratching their head. And my wife certainly wasn't all that excited about it at first, but it was a family thing. We're a tight family, and so my brother, my dad, myself, and then my mom came over, and she's running the books, and just a small office. We got along fantastically, and kind of, when I came in, I was pushing the envelope a little bit more. It's time to scale this thing. Time to go. Yeah. And so just through some connections of mine, we got introduced to some property managers and facility managers, and still to this day, we can trace 90% plus of our business to those three initial referrals.
No
Wow.
kidding.
Yeah, and so we've just not snowballed, but we've grown from that. Yeah.
That's awesome. Are your dad and brother still involved?
My brother is. So it's my brother and I. My parents have both left us. They both have passed, and so it's just Rick and I now.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You guys still work well together? No
Amazingly.
issues?
I mean, so never any blow-ups or anything like that. Occasionally we'll have a disagreement on how something should be done, but it's very minor. certainly never public. It's
Right,
kinda,
right.
Yeah.
Well, and I imagine with your backgrounds, you guys probably, is it a situation where he's kind of running the operations and you're running the office kind of thing?
It is. And in a prior life, I worked for aerospace manufacturing. So I was familiar with
So
engineering.
you're very underachiever then.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's certainly not overachieving, but yet. But the aerospace background, I was comfortable looking at drawings and figuring things out. And so immediately I was pushing the envelope on what we were doing, and my dad would squirm and be a little bit uncomfortable. And,
Define pushing the envelope, though. What
were some of the things that you were doing?
Yeah. So for the most part, my father was was repairing a lot of these large systems, and big open drives. He'd rebuild compressors, show my brother how to do all this stuff, and really getting, rolling up the sleeves and getting dirty. And
was it like on a service contract that he was setting up, or was it just a one-time call and we'll come out and fix?
No, it wasn't a service contract back then. It was just, he was their guy.
Your guy, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he would go out and just take care of whatever needed to be taken care of. Sometimes that'd lead into, we got to take this unit out back and shoot it. We got to get a new unit in there. And in earlier days, he would balk at that. I encouraged him, no, we can do this. And so didn't know how, but like most startups, we just took it on and figured it out as we went. And then it would go into reducting an office or an extension or a remodel on some of his existing customers. And I would work on, doing the calcs on what was required in a given space. And we did that. And he was unfamiliar with that, and we just kept pushing from there. Started with some minor remodels, and then we'd just take on bigger and bigger projects. And my encouragement to him and my brother at the time was, hey, it's exactly what you're doing now, just a lot bigger.
Yeah.
And we'll figure it out. And I would get up there. I don't want to oversell this because I'm not mechanically inclined, and I know my lane, and I try and stay in that. But it'd be my brother and I up on a scissor lift, running duct and installing units and doing whatever it took in those early years to get it done, and run back to the office and try and get more. So that was kind of our early beginnings. And so here we are, fast forward 20 years, and we have averaged 20% growth per year for 20 years.
Dang.
Wow.
Yeah. And so we look back on it and it's, wow, doesn't feel like it.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. But
well, when it's healthy, steady growth like that, when you don't go from 3 million to 35 million,
right,
it doesn't seem like it was that much, right? You're like you said, you're just doing a little bit more. Yep. Pushing that envelope a little bit every year. Yeah,
it was pure organic growth. We really tried to take care of the customers we had without taking on too much more, and then sacrificing what got us there. So, and we still to this day, our customers from the very beginning are still with us now. So it's been good, but we are now expanding and growing, and it's quite intentional. We're not pumping the brakes anymore.
Right,
we're ready to rock and roll. So,
well, I would assume at this point you probably have systems in place that have kind of that will allow for that growth, right? That you've probably learned the hard way through some other things, and stumbled through some of that growth.
Absolutely, it's we have been quite intentional about developing systems and process and procedures that allow us to scale, and we're not shy about technology and stuff, and we're bringing in a new ERP system. In fact, we're starting implementation next week, and that will help accelerate that and help us scale without having to add a lot more bodies or overhead to do that. Yeah.
So what kind of work? Where do you guys focus now? Where do you see most of your work? Most of your revenue coming from now?
Yeah. So we do a lot of banks, service maintenance and replacements and retrofits. A lot of retail, shopping centers, all names that they're household names on the guys that we work with. And that's kind of on the service and retrofit side. And on our construction side, it's all over the place. We'll do a TI on an office. We'll build a restaurant. We just completed a 14-story complete 400-ton replacement of 412 units in a senior living facility. So it's a broad range, and we pretty much, a few years back, we'd say we kind of cap out about a 6-story building. Now we take on just about everything except for large campuses and stuff. So far,
yeah.
We'll get there. But we're
Keep pushing that envelope.
yeah. So, but yeah. So we just we're now, in fact, this today is representing kind of this breakout, this change. You and I found each other through LinkedIn.
Yeah.
We don't have a website. We don't have any.
Not at all.
No
No
website.
kidding.
No salesman. No outgoing calls. No yellow pages.
And what kind of revenue are you guys doing?
We're doing about $7 million.
Jeez.
So,
With nothing.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
But that's
Except for reputation. Yeah.
yeah,
Right.
that's with us holding back.
Yeah.
And not like letting go.
Right.
So recently,
Is that intentional? Or are you?
It was
okay.
intentional,
Yeah.
and we had stretched ourselves, and it didn't look good, and
Right.
we didn't end up in a good place. So we
Okay.
said, let's back off, let's stay with what we know, and really lock that down, and then we took baby steps from there.
I see. Okay.
So now we've done a lot more, and we've got good backlog, and those numbers we should track on our growth rate looking forward.
Yeah.
Pretty good. Yep. So but what's interesting is after 20 years, stumbled into this program. It's a great program, and I got to give a shout out to it. It's Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses. And a shout out to the LBCC cohort 24, which is a group that I was with. It was 42 business owners and executives, but it's more nascent companies. It's more startup companies that not startup, but got revenue, but they really need to grow. And so what Goldman has done is they're really interested in helping small businesses grow. And so you spend an intense 4 months developing a growth plan, not a business plan. And so that was kind of neat. You do a deep dive in a lot of different areas. And one of the things that came out from that was, look, if you don't do Facebook, you don't do Twitter, we get it, and whatever you want to do there, but you have to do LinkedIn. So they shamed me into doing LinkedIn, and within hours, people I hadn't seen in years or say, "Hey, I'm over here. Why don't you come over and give us a price on this?" And so business started happening within hours of getting on LinkedIn.
Wait. So when was this again?
This was last month.
Okay.
Last month. Yeah.
Yeah,
And now here you are on a podcast.
and here I am
getting some great
podcast.
marketing. Yeah.
And our website is going up next week.
Okay. All right.
That's so awesome.
There's a slow roll going.
Yeah.
Actually,
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
fast roll. Huh?
Yeah, so we've we're moving things along, and I got to credit that program for kind of reigniting the afterburners. We would have been, and this sounds a little bit odd, but we'd been comfortable with that 20% growth.
Yeah.
Right.
But we're ready, to actually go ahead and
Let it go.
let it rip. So we're excited.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. Go ahead.
I was gonna say so previous to all this new kind of rollout in terms of the marketing, previous to that, when you were talking about the construction kind of being a broad range of projects, was it similar to the service maintenance side where you're just doing work for a few GCs and developers and they're just continually hiring you for new projects, or because you have no outbound calls, what was the or how did you generate that business?
Yeah, it really was that. So in our world, and as you guys know, it becomes a small world after a while. And
Right.
so people that are working at one company, there's reduction in force, relocation, and then they take us to their new company. So
Yeah.
we know who we're working with, but it's just a new, invoices are coming from
Right.
some. So that was really the secret to our growth, was just, working really hard to serve these folks that we're working with, and lo and behold, they move somewhere else, and much of the time they took us with them.
Right.
Yeah, and a lot of that's happening now with the last year, 2020, and the COVID. There's been a lot of movement.
movement,
out there.
yeah.
Shuffle. Yeah.
Yeah, so we're seeing a lot of new names and calls come in. We're on the list, the bid list, and things like that. 99% of them we do not respond to. If I don't know you, I'm not working with you typically. Yeah, and it just keeps. And we have great customers. They all pay very well in terms of timeliness.
Yeah.
And we try to reciprocate with a good product.
So I would imagine that mindset has to change a little bit when you go into this new growth plan, right? As far as, if I don't know you, I'm probably not going to work with you. You probably have to expand that a little bit, right? And I guess my question is, what was the impetus for the mindset change of, hey, we can grow 20% with this great product that we have now in our reputation, but let's open these couple of these gates and grow a little bit more. What was the mindset there behind that decision?
Sure. I think so first, even though we're kind of going public, and we'll not going public, but we're
This is the finance guy.
coming, not even out of the closet. That didn't sound right either. But we're
Exposing yourself to the world.
yeah, something like that. Yeah,
Nope.
Yeah, no.
and but there's still our Rolodex is pretty big, and there's a lot of people that we've done a lot of good business over the years that we've just lost contact with. So we'll start there.
Yeah.
And it's been amazing to me how many people have reached out through LinkedIn, and I'm reconnecting with, and there's a lot of opportunity just right there.
Right.
So we'll start there. And sure, if someone calls, most of our calls are, hey, Joe recommended you guys. I got this little project, and that we get a lot of growth that way.
Right.
And we're getting those calls very often.
Even more now, probably, yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, maybe a little bit more. We're just starting. I mean, I just got on LinkedIn. It's just starting to go. So, so we'll start there and then we've got to hire some sales guys or project managers to go ahead and take that on, and so we can scale properly.
Yeah. So, is there any plan other than just being present on LinkedIn and with a website? Is there any plan to be deliberate about generating growth through either of those revenues or either of those avenues?
Yeah, we still won't be outbound yet.
Okay.
We've got a lot on our plate, and we can see growth exceeding our normal growth percentage, but we'll see where it goes. Yeah, we're not quite there. We're going to be knocking on doors.
Right.
But
I mean, even just putting yourself out there, right? I mean, you think about somebody that has Instagram, even, or I mean, LinkedIn is good, especially in the space you guys are in from a lot of the commercial work that you guys do. But something like Instagram, where you're literally just posting pictures or short videos of your work, right? So that it's kind of like a visual resume, right, or a visual work history, kind of showing what you guys do and how you do it, just kind of being out there. You know what I mean?
It sounds great. I got.
He says, "Yeah, Mike, shut up. No chance."
Yeah. I got to tell you, when I was signing up for LinkedIn, my hands were shaking. I was like, okay, I do not.
I love it. And now here you are on a podcast,
and
it's so good.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Although to be fair, like when we were doing, because there was a long time that we were doing our own social media and we hated it. So we now have somebody that's doing it, but.
That was more for the workload, not necessarily the exposure, though. But
it's a good point, and I've thought about that. There's a lot of things, the time that it takes to stay on top of it. Just even with LinkedIn right now.
Yeah.
Just I'm messaging a lot through it and reconnecting with people, and it's been great, and I love that part of it. But I can see I'm just scratching the surface, even with LinkedIn, not to mention Instagram or any of these others, And I've thought about. I know there's you can hire help. To maintain that, and I thought, well, maybe that'll be something someday. Let's kind of take care of what's coming our way right now.
Yeah.
And so make sure we handle that properly.
Did somebody have to push you into being here today?
No.
You didn't run that by anybody or say, hey, I'm kind of thinking about
You
this,
and I.
nobody. Yeah. That's good though.
Yep.
I mean, to go from like handshaking, signing up for LinkedIn to like, hey, no problem. Yeah, I'll be on your podcast. I mean, that's
blasted to the world.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
I love the idea that you're talking to contractors. We don't have much of a voice out there.
Yeah,
and
that was a big reason why we do this.
and it seemed like a good thing you guys got going here, and so
Well, we appreciate it. Thanks for coming, man.
Yeah.
This is awesome.
And I like I'm in a lot of peer-to-peer
Yeah.
CEO business owners groups and things like that, and I really appreciate the feedback amongst owners. So I love hearing what other businesses are doing. I listen to your podcasts and love hearing that stuff, and so I'm open to sharing kind of whatever I've got to share.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
The cool thing about the show that was an unintended benefit, I think, is getting the perspective, because we do insurance, and so generally the stories that we hear from the insurance side for so many years have been more or less on like, oh my gosh, I'm having to deal with this claim, or this guy, my loss runs are terrible and I just need to get a better price, right? But the stories that we hear now and the perspectives that we have from so many different people, and the reason why I enjoy especially this interview too, is that you, I think, are the first person we've ever had that came from, not the first business, is coming from outside of contracting from a business standpoint, but you're coming from the financial services sector. So it's funny to hear you say, like, we've grown steady 20% over year, which is actually, I feel like 20% is pretty good,
Pretty good jump,
return on your investment, especially in finance, right?
Yeah.
So that being said, it's very, very cool to hear the intentional steps that you guys are taking. It's not, some people just like, they don't know what they're doing. They just trip over themselves or try to figure it out, and they make a ton of money and then they lose it all, right?
Yeah.
But it sounds like you guys based on that Goldman Sachs growth plan that you're doing, it sounds like, while it seems fast, you said, we did LinkedIn last month, and we're going to do a website next week or next month, whenever that was. So it sounds like these are our very intentional steps that we're moving forward, and we're going to continue to do that and slowly kind of unroll and see what happens as we go. And then we'll kind of pivot.
See where we're at.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, we have made a ton of mistakes.
Oh, that's natural.
You're human.
And we have, and that 20% hasn't been a consistent 20%. It's been -5 plus 40. So it averages 20% over the 20 years.
Looks great on paper.
But it's not as pretty and clean as it sounds now. And it was a lot of hard work, and it was a lot of sleepless nights, a lot of, Fridays don't know how we're going to make payroll.
Yep.
Right.
And in 20 years, I can say we haven't missed a payroll yet. And we do, we kind of laugh inside in the office, like God shows up on Fridays. we don't know how, but
Thursday night you're sweating, but here he is on Friday.
And it's been, so it's been a great ride. And coming from my background into this, we spent much of our time kind of kicking business owners, CEOs in the shins about getting their financials in order. And then I step on the other side of the fence, and I'm running this little HVAC company with a handful of employees, and it's the hardest damn thing I've done in my life.
And that's the last thing you got on your mind is making sure your P&L and balance sheet are in line.
Oh my gosh. It was crazy, and that was such a...
I'm just trying to hang this ductwork.
It was a rude awakening. It's tough. And unless you've done it, unless you're, responsible for... the livelihood and the families of your employees, and worrying about payroll and taking care of vendors and stuff, you just don't know how heavy that is, because you're all in.
Yep.
You're putting it all out there on the line.
So kind of on that employee aspect, the steady growth is easy, right? Like maybe one guy every year, or a couple guys every year. But going into this model where you expect to grow a little bit quicker.
Yep.
Is there where are you guys looking at bringing on new people, and what's that process look like for you? Just because, especially with what you guys do and being so technical, I have to imagine it's sometimes a little bit more difficult than finding a guy just to hang sheetrock.
Absolutely. And finding good people, the right people, is tough. We're fortunate in that, in many ways. Kind of word has got out, and some people have heard about coming to work for M3. And again, we're under the radar. We don't go out there. When I call someone for an interview, the first thing they do is look us up on the internet, and they can't find anything. Right? And so that it's not a good first impression necessarily. Right. But I encourage them. We got this, and let's talk. And once they do, or most of our folks come in from referral, from internal, or friends of the company that know us and know what we're about, and we're looking for these special, certain kind of person.
Right.
Yeah. But in terms of what we need now going forward, we're looking at project coordinators, project managers, another dispatcher, some more guys in the field, and we try to keep our ratios in line, field to office, to overhead. You know, we're the expense, we're the costs, and the money makers. Those are the guys that are important.
Right.
And they're all important, but that's where the money's made.
Right.
And we got some really. It's taken 20 years, but we got a good core group of guys in the field and in the office that we're really happy with. It's a great group, and so they know what our values are, and what kind of people we like, and certainly what we don't like.
Right.
And they're really good about being careful who they refer in. Yeah.
Are you in a position? Well, that first of all, that referral thing, I think, is one of the best things you can do, right? Because not only is that person coming in wanting to impress you as their employer, but they also know that there's somebody else that they have to impress.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it makes them look bad to you. So you kind of got two different avenues of accountability there, which I think is always a good thing. But and I lost where I was going to go. Oh, from a training standpoint.
Yep.
Are you, especially with the guys in the field, obviously is probably a little bit heavier on the training side, but are you looking for guys with experience, or do you have a system set up now with the guys that have been around for a long time that you can bring in somebody with little or no experience and kind of teach them the job?
Yeah, all the above.
Okay.
So it's kind of got to be balanced.
Right.
We need some journeyman guys that can walk into a facility and know what to do.
Yeah.
Know how to troubleshoot, find the problems, knock it out, and move on. But we've also got a lot of good apprentice level guys that are working up, and my brother and I, Rick and I, say it all the time. We've got the best, worst guys we've ever had in our history. And
Well, it's that bottom 5% mentality, right? Like,
Yeah.
I used to work in restaurants all the time, and they would always tell us, like, no matter how good you think your staff is, and this is when you're running like 18 to 20-year-olds, like
Yeah.
that. I mean, yeah, I was there.
20-year-olds,
Yeah,
yeah.
18 to 20-year-olds, yeah. But they always say, like, you can always replace your bottom 5%, right? Like, but to that same mentality, right? Like,
Yep.
if your worst guy is still somebody that you are extremely happy with and does a phenomenal job, like,
our worst guy's a
got that.
keeper.
Yeah.
And so we're and that's even a little harsh. Our worst guy is not bad,
Right,
You know, so
right.
yeah. But you know, we're now going to start building up. It's kind of a weird COVID. We just got hit with a tsunami of COVID through our company, so we're just coming out of that.
Oh, within the employee base.
Yeah.
Yeah, geez.
Yeah.
Okay.
We made it from March to December pretty much unscathed, and we're essential business, so we've been active.
Still going, yeah.
And all up and down the state of California. We handle the entire state. And now in December, I think 95% of our employees
Wow.
got taken out. Yeah.
Hey.
So we got hit. The Thanksgiving wave,
Right.
kind
Yeah.
of
Right.
hit us from multiple points,
Yep.
and then it just it took us out.
Dang,
So it was
So you
crazy.
kind of
times.
just kind of shelter down or hunker down and kind of just pause everything for a few weeks?
No, we did. We had two in the office that had it previously, so they were running.
They were untouchable.
Yeah, so 10 out of 10 in the office have had it now, and so they were keeping things. They were keeping the plates spinning.
Yeah.
And doing an amazing job, and we had enough guys to kind of put out the fires.
Yeah.
We weren't really moving down the field much, but we were keeping our customers kind of.
Treading water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was, fortunately, unfortunately, the holidays came and that kind of helped.
Slow things down a bit.
It did.
Yeah.
It made it a little easier for us to catch our breath and start the new year. And we were excited. All right, everyone's coming back healthy. And then we got this other national scene happening, and it's crazy.
Yeah, but now you have an army of like indestructible human beings.
We've got this cloud of immunity for a short period of time. Yeah. So we're pretty happy. We're pretty excited about that.
Yeah.
But still leery and no one wants to go through it a second time.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
so-
Yeah. Not fun at all.
Yeah.
So what are you guys looking at for the future? What is, I mean, obviously increased growth. Are there other plans from expansion as far as maybe geographically or more offices, or what's the ultimate goal in 5 or 7 years?
Yeah, so geographically, our customers have always driven that. In fact, we were threatened at one point if we did not, we might lose them. And so we ended up taking on the state of California, and we do service and retrofits and design build up and down the state. There's other states where we're in the process of getting licensed, also for similar reasons. It's being driven by our customers. Hey, we need help here in Washington and Texas and some other Nevada and Arizona. So we'll be licensing up and getting ready for that. Not necessarily taking on business yet. It'll be targeted in the beginning, but we'll get our ducks lined up and see how that goes.
Well, it's part of that whole. I feel like it's just how you guys have done things, from what I understand from the beginning, right? Like being very intentional and setting up all the systems and everything before just firing off work.
Not overextending yourself.
Yeah, and when we knew we had to go the full state of California, we started lining up other customers who we knew had facilities up north, and so we'll do something similar. We have other customers that are building other facilities throughout in other states and stuff. So we'll work with them to try and get some critical mass.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So, kind of before we wrap this up, maybe what are some of the challenges you guys face on a day-to-day basis that you kind of gotta? I mean, obviously that month of December, that was tough. But like outside of that, are there things that you guys are challenged with or struggle with?
COVID is still a big uncertainty.
Yeah.
We have a rolling 50 open service calls where we can't get into the facility because of COVID.
Wow.
Where they've actually, we'll get an emergency call, show up in an hour, and the facility's closed.
It closed because all the employees are working remotely, or because you can't get in, or what's the purpose or reason for that?
Banks, for instance.
Oh, I see. Yep.
Customer and employee has COVID, they shut it down, clean it out, and it'll be who knows how long before we get back in. Wow. So we literally have over 50 work orders right now open where we can't get in because
just waiting to get in.
And so the unfortunate thing is we roll on that, get there, and nothing happens. So we miss out on opportunity costs, right? We're burning the clock when we could be making money somewhere else. So that's hard right now, and planning for that. We're through the period where there was just a crazy time where this contact tracing, okay, this guy on the crew is sick, and so you and I got to take off, and we're all getting tested.
It's a whole nother level of logistics, huh?
Oh my gosh. And then he's now on another crew, and so we've been managing through that, and that's been difficult for us, but getting a lot better now. So we'll see what happens on the customer side, because even projects, and you guys are probably hearing this quite a bit too, project will be shut down because someone on a crew or a couple guys on a crew had COVID and they're shutting the project down. And so we're all dealing with that, and that wasn't built into the contracts. Yeah. So
you say that, but almost a year into it, I was gonna say almost a year into it, it's
crazy.
I have to imagine there's some contracts somewhere that have some sort of stipulations built into it.
But our employees have been just rock stars through this thing. It's been amazing. I marvel at how they've just keep rocking, and we get emergency calls all over the place, and they're still rolling. They're masking up, putting on all the protective gear, and good
making
soldiers out there. Yeah.
What was I feel like I haven't asked this question in a while. What was that the first kind of like company morale feeling like back in March when everything was very uneasy and confusing? What was it like back then?
Yeah. Uneasy and confusing.
Yeah.
It was. We didn't know.
Question.
Yeah.
We didn't know, and we didn't know what we were supposed to do. And then we started. The term essential business started floating around. Okay, I guess we're an essential business. We're going to keep going in business, and we just worked our way through it. It was, some of the crazy things were, we've got a lot of moms with their kids, and couldn't
Working
go to
at
school.
home, yeah.
And so we had some remote work, but a lot of it had to be done at the office, or they maybe aren't necessarily set up for laptops and desks at home where they can have their 1, 2, 3 kids.
Workstation, yeah.
So we said, you know what, guys, we're all in this together. This is uncharted waters. We don't know what's happening here. Just don't sue me, okay? But if you guys are all in agreement, let's bring the kids in. We got conference rooms, we got offices. We can set them up in laptops. They can do their Zooms with their teachers. We'll work it out. They're close with their moms. The moms feel more comfortable.
That's
more
awesome.
Safer.
That's cool.
So we've
It's
got
like a work pod, right?
Yeah.
Like, everybody's safe here if they're here all day and they're
Yeah.
not going out and just exposing themselves.
and it was awesome. And even those who don't have kids just had great attitudes about it. And
Yeah.
in fact, you would see some of the kids in their office with laptops at Zoom, in class. And so it was really cool. Plus we'd have, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 kids. We're a dog friendly office as well, so we got dogs, and it was
It's like home.
yeah, just like home.
It's like a big compound. Yeah. That's awesome.
And we really are. We started out as a family business. We're really trying to maintain that vibe
feel,
and be a family business, but kind of a grown up one.
That's cool, man.
Yeah.
Well, before we let you go, we want to give you an opportunity to let the people know where to find you. It sounds like there's a website coming soon, so
Yes.
let's get that out there. Well, actually, when do you know when it's going to go live?
We're doing some final edits on it now. So in the next
this
week
episode,
or
I think, will be next week. So
two. Okay.
I think probably around
Yeah.
they'll
Yeah.
both be dropping at the same website and podcast.
Hopefully,
There
yeah.
you go.
So let the people know where to find you, or on LinkedIn, or phone numbers, emails, whatever it is.
Sure. Yeah. Our website is M3, the number 3, HVAC.com. And if you got business to throw our way, you can reach me at Tony@m3hvac.com. And love to look at your projects. We're strictly commercial, no residential, and just about everything in the commercial world, from industrial to office to retail to, we do senior living, some OshPod stuff, you name it. So
Very cool, man. Well, thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Yeah,
It's been
thank you.
awesome. Stay safe out there, and we'll see you down the road.
great. Thank you
Thanks,
very
sir.
much. Thanks, guys.
Have a good one.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks for listening. And if you've made it this far, go ahead and give us a like or 5 stars or whatever means you like us.
Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss our next episode. And check out our website for more video content and extras.
While you're there, shoot us a message if you want to be a guest. We'd love to have you on.
Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.